Alright, here we are. Now what we need to do is I need to show you how to get the holes in the sides of your paper and also in your covers. And so that you get the holes even, because that's very important, your holes have to be in the same place on your paper as they are in your notebook. And since you don't want to be constantly measuring, you make a template. So I take the handy dandy little 4x8 sheet of paper, like one of them that I've cut out, and I'm going to make a template out of it. So I'm basically just going to fold it like my paper is. And then I'm going to unfold it again. And we're going to put the holes, obviously in the paper they're going to be on the folded edge. So that's where I'm going to put them on the template. And since I'm 4 inches wide here, I can go ahead and measure out, you know, just space them evenly. Since I have a 4 inch, I can go every ½ inch here. It depends on how big your book is as to how many holes you want to put in it. With a 4x4 book, 4 holes is about appropriate. You can do 5, whatever makes the math easier for you. So I'm going to put a mark at ½ inch, 1½, 2½, 3½. Easy peasy. So I've got just little pencil marks there, so I know what I'm doing. And then I'm going to take my tack and I'm going to pierce those holes. I'm on my template, I'm going to wiggle it a little bit to make the holes big enough so that I can mark through them. Just makes life easier. So there we go. You can see that I've got those holes poked so you can see them through the other side. Okay, and then what we're going to do, and I'm actually going to switch to a different template just because I have one that's already sized that I use for everything, so I like to keep them all the same size, but it's basically the same thing. I'm just switching back to my old one. Okay, and to mark the pages, you can either lay the, open the book up and lay the paper out, if that's easier for you, or I found that all I have to do is keep my pages like this and slide the template over the top and just line it up. Then I take my pencil and just right into the holes, just wiggle until I make a mark on the edge of the paper. That's why we make the holes a little bigger, because if you have the holes too small in your template, it'll be hard to make a good enough mark so you can see it. So there we go. There's my, I don't know if you can really see it there, but there's 4 little marks there that I can see just fine. So I'm going to fold this out, take my pin, and I don't need to wiggle it when I actually mark the paper. I just want to pierce through. Just make sure when you go to unfold to poke the holes in it that you're unfolding all 5 sheets of paper, because if one of them is stayed closed like this, you're not going to pierce through it and then you'll have issues. So just make sure you've got them all open. So there they are. Yep. 4 very nice holes pierced exactly where I want them. So then I got to put the holes in my cover. Now the cover you have to be a little careful about, especially if you have scrapbook paper that's not multi-directional. Like if you have something like this, it's not really going to matter which direction you put it in. Upside down, right side up, left side, right side, it doesn't matter. But something like this with like the little animals on it, you don't want to have one cover going right side up and the other cover upside down. So what you want to do is make sure they're both right side up, and then I'm going to have you sandwich them together. Figure out which one you want as your front cover. Sometimes the front cover, like one of the sheets will have a cuter image on it than the back, so you know which one you want the front and which one you want the back, and decide and hold it like you're going to use it as a book. So hold the front cover right side up just like it was already made, and then just like you're going to open it as a book, you're just going to, sorry, I had to figure out that part. You're just going to go ahead and see, I've got it like this, so you're going to tip it up and then flip it to the top pages like this. So you've got it like this. This is the way I'm going to read it. I'm just going to turn it to the side and flip it open and lay it down. So this, as you can see, is where I was going to bind it. See, I'd bind it on this edge. So when I do that, I've got the 2 edges I need bound. So that's where I'm going to put my holes. And generally with this part, since I have a little border here, I just kind of pull the paper across until I get onto that colored paper, and then I know I'm pretty far enough in. You'll have to eyeball that. Make it as straight as possible. If it's not absolutely perfect, it's going to be okay. So I just pull it in until I can see that accent paper underneath, and then I know approximately how far I am in. Just make little marks. Okay, on that one. Got it. And then do the same over here. Mark, 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 mark. Alright. And then poke the holes. Make sure and get it all the way through. Okay. So none of this has been very hard. That's what I love about it. None of it's very difficult at all. Okay, so see, we've got our little holes punched. Nice and pretty. Sometimes what happens when you pierce the cardboard from this side through this side, it'll push that pattern paper out and you'll get kind of like a little rim around there. And that actually bugs me. I know. I'm not a neat crafter, but that bugs me. So what I'll do is I'll take my needle and use the side of it to push that paper back over the hole, and then I'll poke through it and it'll push the paper back into the hole so I don't have, you know, that extra paper sticking on the outside. It just makes it look a little neater. You can't really see what I'm talking about on the video, but when you do it for yourself, you'll kind of know what I mean. And it just makes it a little nicer. Okay. So, we are getting really close to the sewing part of this video, which is impressive. I didn't think it was going to go this fast. I'm probably forgetting to tell you something. Hope not. Okay, if you can think of anything that you have questions about, or you're like, what? What is she talking about? She was speaking Martian. Go ahead and just leave a comment, and I would be more than happy to clarify or whatevs. I've got all those poked in there now. Alright, so two pretty covers. I now know which one's the front and which one's the back. When you actually sew the pages in, you're going to start with the bottom cover. So go ahead and put them back together with the holes matching up. Figure out which one's your top cover, and then set that aside and start with your bottom cover. It depends on how many sets of pages you want to put in. I generally put in 5 sets of pages, 5 signatures I should say, 5 signatures. And of course, since each one's 10 pages, I'm making a 50-page notebook. You could, because of the fact that you're stitching between 2 covers that aren't bound together, you can make this book as wide as you really want to. The possibilities are honestly endless here. Okay, so you want to pick out an embroidery thread. Like I said, some of you may have thread that matches, some of you may not. No big whoop-de-doo. I do really like the way the light colors, or the bright colors look. I think it just makes the book pop when you have something extra on the edge rather than just black or white. Now, it took me a while to figure out exactly how much thread to use. I was wasting a lot in the beginning, or the worst part, worse than wasting, is when you get all the way to the end of your notebook, you're about to attach the back cover, and you run out of yarn. That sucks. So, and this probably works for any size, I don't know. I've only made this size, but I figured out that if you use exactly 8 lengths of your cover, it's just about perfect. You end up with like maybe 2 inches of thread left. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and I mostly do actually count out loud, because if not, I lose track and then I have to start over. So, got this. I am going to go ahead and thread my needle. Don't tie any knots. We don't need any knots in our thread. I'm going to go ahead and stop this right now and then start back over in the next portion with actually stitching. So I'll be right back.